right now, it's time to kick out the jams, motherfucker! Yeah!
Hi, my name is Machine Gun Thompson, and I am the drummer from the MC5. The MC5 originally stood for the Motor City 5. One day we were just a garage band. The next day we're on the cover of the Rolling Stone. We are in Jazz and Pop, Cosmopolitan, Playboy magazine. Just 1 minute we're nobodies from Lincoln Park. The next minute we're worldwide phenomena. You're listening to a man who has been through the wars, and I've got the battle scars in my heart and my emotions to prove it. Anything you want to do in this country you can do, but it does take hard work, and there's plenty of adversity, and there's plenty of lies and confusion and subterfuge and crooked politicians and crooked lawyers, but none of that should get in your way. But you can make it as perfect as you can in your own work, in your own life, if you choose to work hard. We were under the microscope for 2 years. Our first record rose to number 29 in the national charts, and the single went to number 2 and number 1 in many cities in the Midwest. I had a hard time getting to number 1 because of the MF, Mother Superior, Kick Out the Jams, Mother Superior, and I'm keeping this R-rated, folks, because I prefer to do that. The reason we said the word MF was a rallying cry. It was not swearing for swearing's sake. We were the first band ever to say one of those words in liner notes and on a live record. Janis Joplin played at the Grandy, and we were sitting out there watching her band rehearse one day before the show. They were doing sound check and going over a new song they had written. I forget the name of the song, but the guitar player Sam was having a problem with the bridge, coming into the bridge, and so the 5 of us are sitting back in chairs and just sort of like catcalling and hooting and hollering and being hecklers out there. They kept stopping the song at the point where Sam would make his mistakes, and Janis would yell at him. Scream at him is a better word, and we're all laughing in the background saying, hey, kick out the jams or get off the stage. Kick out the jams or get off the stage, which is our flagship song on the first record, and we are known for the phrase kick out the jams, because what it actually means was what I just said, and that is, if you are fortunate enough to be on a stage and to play music in front of people, you should pour your heart into it. You should do all that you can. You should assume an artist's responsibility and to say something and go beyond just being entertainers. Try and give people something they can take home with them in their daily lives. And so Kick Out the Jams was a sort of a rallying cry or a war call, if you would, to rally people around support for the changes that were happening in the late 60s. Now, the band originally felt we were 3-2 on this as far as a Democratic vote was concerned. Two of us, namely Fred Smith and myself, decided it wouldn't be a good idea to put the MF on the record because it would cause exactly what it did cause. It would cause a problem with sales. It would cause a problem in the community. But we went ahead. We were overruled. We went out with our original version.
Clans. We could have played a more polished version of what we were doing versus the energy of the audience and us was a magical thing. It really was. Here's what bugged us. They said if we didn't like it, we could do it again. Well, yeah, we wait a month and do it again, because we let everybody come in for free. The place was packed. It's 3,000 people there. The fire code was 1,500. The rest paid off the fire marshal, and then the rest is history. So when we finally get it, instead of getting an acetate, which is what they first do, and you would listen to the acetate and say, well, I don't like that, and that. They had already pressed the record and made the cover, the album cover. We heard the record, and to a man, we didn't like it. We didn't like the mistakes. We didn't like the tempos varying. But the tempos varied with essentially the energy of the music. When you hit a certain point and all members are on the same wavelength, it gets intense. And the drummer's natural inclination is to lead the beat, not right on the beat, but be just a little bit ahead of it. That creates an aspect called propulsion in physics, okay? Slow acceleration. Well, the intensity was so incredible all the time that the tempos had a, you know, if we got to a chorus and it was a boring chorus or whatever, it sort of mellow out into the pocket. But then in a lot of places there was surges, but it was real, it was organic. And we wanted to do it over again in the grinding. You know, give us a couple months, we'll go in the studio, we'll tighten up, and then we'll do it again. No, that's it. This is after being promised by John Sinclair and Jack Holtzman and Danny Fields that if we did not like it, we could do it again. Because all they did was bring out a 16-track mobile, mic us up, and record us. Alan knows what I'm talking about. How simple it is to do something like that if you have the equipment.
Because there was a bit of a revolution going on. We were called the Point Vanguard by the media. They labeled us the vanguard of the revolution. That was not our intention to be the vanguard of any revolution. Our intention was to play the music and just to have fun and be better than the Rolling Stones. And of course, you know, to live the American dream. But as fortune would have it, we got caught up in the political atmosphere, which ultimately destroyed our group.
The kids, the parents, as a majority, thought that we were, what proper word would be, not undermining the kids. We were influencing the children in a very bad way with the sex and drugs and rock and roll bullshit. They didn't want to see their daughters get fucked in the street, you know what I mean? The liner notes in our album, John Sinclair wrote, I despise. It was idiotic what he did, but it created controversy, and controversy leads to curiosity, and curiosity leads to people looking into it and eventually buying the product because they want to know what's this all about. And when they bought the MC5 music, they got a whole, not only did they get music, but they got a political view of life at the time. And we were honest about it. We didn't overplay it. We just played it as it was. And over time, like I mentioned the Oakland Pop Festival to writers before, where we had 5 different police departments that were waiting for us, and it was getting to the point, like, you know, it was hard for us to play without getting beat up or busted and thrown in jail. There was a war going on between the elder generation and the enforcement agencies versus the children, because the kids were asking for change. I mean, Vietnam was happening, and smart kids were asking smart questions like, what the fuck are we doing over there? It's halfway across the world. What does that have to do with us? You know, they never told us the real truth. It wasn't a domino effect. McNamara fessed up in a documentary called The Fog of War, where he owned up to the fact that, well, he didn't tell the whole truth, but he said that it was a mistake, a big, big, big mistake, because Vietnam polarized everybody, because they drafted all the people, the young men that were blue collar, black, of different races entirely, and senators' sons, as Bob Seger said, were not drafted. There was a draft then. The kids don't understand that today. There is no draft. There was no draft for Iraq or whatever. You got drafted the minute you graduated high school. 2 weeks later, you got a notice to go to Fort Wayne in Detroit. And that was, if you went to Fort Wayne and you passed the physical, they put you on the bus straight away going to the nearest army. I think armies are called forts, to the nearest fort to train you to go to Vietnam and die. This is powerful stuff, very powerful. And that united the youth culture. Behind the music that was representative of the feeling, the MC5 embodied it in the most intense way. We are really, really, one, afraid for you, and we really want to protect you, and we also really want to fight back. We want to push back because somebody's got to do it. The constant police harassment pissed us off because they had no business doing that. But I do believe that the police really hated these hippies. And Detroit, in particular, we weren't hippies. We were just pot-smoking maniacs, okay? We were Detroit kids, the band. And we were wild and we were crazy because we knew that wild and crazy was fun, but it was, you know, we had it handled. And at first it was sort of like, I don't know, fun. You know, let's just do what we do. And so we got busted. Well, we had William Kunstler, a very popular lawyer, get us out of one of the jails and went to jail in Frisco. And we had another big name lawyer get us out. So it was like there was other people. Chicago 7. We were the band that will play at your police riot. We're the only band that would show up. We played at the riot on Grosse Ile here in Detroit, and we played at the Chicago Democratic National Convention at that riot in 1968. We were the focal point. There was 8,000 people that were watching the show, and it was all very calm, cool, and collected. But somewhere in the back of the, far back of the audience, the violence began. And all of a sudden there's helicopters flew around, paddy wagons are pulling up, cop cars are ringing around the audience, and they start riding into the back of the audience in a wedge formation on horses with long batons. Bam, bam, bam. And we're going, whoa. We're playing on a flatbed truck plugged into a hot dog stand. And Janis Joplin didn't show up, and Ted Nugent didn't show up, and Bob Seger didn't show up, the Stooges didn't show up. All these people promised to be there. We hop into our van that said MC5 on the side. May as well advertise, there's the enemy, you know. And Sinclair's driving out of there, and he's like, got a joint hanging out of his mouth. He's going over he's going, yeah, pull on that turn-up train. And he's going over curbs and running over, you know, statues and whatever. Get the fuck out of Dodge, because they were coming for us. A very important question because it's developmental, factory experimental. First album was live. Second album, we hear the clams. Because the second album was about precision. We overcompensated for the first album. And then third album, we got it dead on. We produced it, our co-produced it with a in-house stable producer named Jeff Haslam. And he allowed us to produce. And we all had a bit of a say in it. And we recorded some in England, some in London, and some in Detroit. And we did it right. We had the energy and we had the tightness by the third time. So you have two extremes, right? You have free form happening here in the moment, and then you have a little too strict, almost rigid. But it turns out to be one of the most popular albums. The punksters like the second album. They like the 2-minute and 30-second idea, especially the Ramones. We got 100 songs. If the kids don't like it in the first 2 verses, we'll stop it and do another one, you know? And there's so many elements to this that sort of, it's a paradigm for living, how to live. But the stories are great. The stories have the color. I mean, it's the reality of it all. Top-down view is my message to everybody is to find your passion.
Born under a bad sign. It's kind of our theme song.
The subtitle, Born
Yes,
is a
it
Bad
is.
Thing. If it wasn't for my bad thing, I wouldn't have any fun at all.